Hello everyone, Chip Paul for Chip Talks Podcast. I want to talk to you guys a little bit today about a big bad bug that a lot of us get called H. pylori, Heliobacter pylori. He is a nasty bug. He is likely responsible for stomach cancer. So he's something that we need to pay attention to. He is also the likely cause of most ulcers. I've seen 90%, kicked around. So 90% of ulcers can be caused by H. pylori. Stomach cancer is caused by H. pylori, and in particular atrophic gastritis. So if you have that, associated with H. pylori, then you're even at more risk of stomach cancer. Now, let's talk this through a little bit because, again, you will, if you do have H. pylori and have an H. pylori infection, you will begin to have symptoms, but usually those symptoms will be, you'll be pretty far along. The bug will have hijacked you pretty well by the time you start experiencing any of these symptoms. But let's kind of talk through what these symptoms are. So first of all, pylori is a bug that wants to infect us. And he wants to really primarily infect the stomach, the pancreas, and the esophagus, okay? So some bugs, when they infect you, like something like staph, it'll want to move everywhere. It'll want to get in as many organs and tissue systems as it possibly can. But pylori will limit itself. And again, it's just really looking at the stomach, at the pancreas, and at the esophagus. So if you have pylori up in your esophagus, this is where a lot of people will begin to experience symptoms of burning, of like gastric upset. If you got it bad enough in your stomach, this will also, be like ulcer-like symptoms, let's say. But by the time you start having symptoms like that, this bug has already eaten through a lot of your tissue lining, is, causing this gastritis. And so it can be pretty severe. So what we like to counsel people on is if you think you've got, and again, everybody should do this anyway. This is these devices are informational devices. And it's now pretty easy to find people who are, using tools like Bioresonance, and Bioresonance is kind of what I'm talking about. And I'll tell you why I'm advocating for Bioresonance. Let's say I just want to go get checked by the doctor to see if I've got pylori. Well, that's going to require a doctor's appointment. That's going to require a examination by the physician, and that's going to require me getting a test. So no, you can't go into a doctor and say, "Hey doc, I think I have pylori, give me the antibiotics." And they'll go, "Oh, hold on, Chip, I'll write you that prescription." It doesn't work that way. They have to have something to hang their hat on, which is that test that says that you actually do have H. pylori. Well, that test, again, is not the most accurate test in the world. Again, it will definitely, let's say pop for pylori, but at what stage? How bad does the pylori have to be before it will pop off on this pharma test? So there's a pharma test, or there's a test, let's say it's in the pharmaceutical industry, but it's also in other places. It's a methane test, where you can blow into this indicator, and then it'll tell you by the amount of methane, if you have pylori and how bad it is. That's a good test. So if your doc has something like that, then great. But most docs don't. You go in and you say, "Doc, I think I have H. pylori." They give you this test. And again, if it's not bad enough in you, it's not going to register on the test. But you still may have H. pylori, one of the biggest, baddest bugs out there, and it's going to be causing you damage. It just didn't register on the pharma test. So this is the reason, because I've had this happen the other way. I've had people show up on Bioresonance as having H. pylori. I've got, you've got insurance. Let me send you down to the doctor's office. Let them test you. They'll give you the antibiotics for pylori. This is before we had a product, but they'll give you the antibiotics for pylori and all that. And you'll get better. Well, I had a lot of people come back and say, "Chip, I went to the doctor and I'm not indicating for pylori on their test." And I'm like, well, it's pretty clear on this. Bioresonance could be wrong. It's informational. It's not a medical device, so it can't diagnose you by any means. So maybe it's wrong, but likely it's not. Likely it's their test is not really indicating this at a strong enough level when you still have it. And that's my concern, let's just say. So if you have pylori, you want to know if you have pylori because you want to be taking actions to beat it back. It's a cancer-causing bug. You don't want that inside of you. So the best way to determine if you have H. pylori, and again, it's not a diagnosis, it can't be, it's not a medical device, it's informational, but find yourself somebody who does bioresonance. So this is something we do in Edmond, Oklahoma. So if you're in Edmond, Oklahoma, look up Neighborly Wellness and come see us. But on a bioresonance test, it'll show up, and it'll show up as H. pylori, and it'll show up, if it's sort of just getting started, and it'll show up if it's very, very advanced. But let me walk you through this. Now, the obvious symptoms of H. pylori are going to be gastric upset and ulcer-like symptoms and stomach cancer-like symptoms.